unacceptable. And if the Labour Party think that they can get away with this, they are sorely mistaken. Black Triangle was with a delegation of deaf and disabled people's organisations that went to Geneva in 2016. Our former comrade Debbie Jolly from Disabled People Against Cuts, we submitted together evidence to the rapporteurs. This government is now in flagrant and systematic breach of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It remains so, and it's about to get worse. Because we're going from a human catastrophe to an apocalypse for disabled people. No, people will die in their thousands. And what we must do is we must mobilise our friends and our families, everybody we speak to write to our MPs and tell them that they're getting the push. Because it seems that the only thing they understand is their jobs and their security, not our security. Solidarity, comrades. Let's keep the faith.
Thank you so much. We have a statement from Richard Bergen. This statement contains cruel attacks on disabled people. The government is taking the easy option of cutting support for millions of the poorest and most disadvantaged people rather than making the wealthiest pay. I'll vote against these cuts to disability benefits. The government must drop them. Thank you, John. Thank you, Richard.
And now to welcome Samira Ali from Stand Up to Racism.
Thank you. I'm honoured to be speaking here today, and I think it's so brilliant to see us all out here resisting what this government is doing. The first thing I wanted to do was bring some good news, hopefully, from Stand Up to Racism. People might have seen yesterday that Farage's day was ruined when Stand Up to Racism protesters disrupted his big splash in Doncaster. And this is something that we are going to do everywhere that he goes. We are going to protest Farage, call him out for the racist that he is, the fraud he is, the millionaire that he is, that offers nothing to ordinary people everywhere he goes. We are dedicated to bringing the fight right to his doorstep. But the question actually is, which doorstep? Because people might not know that Farage owns 4 homes. 2 of them are on the Kent coast, but I imagine they're unoccupied most of the time because we can see that most of the time he likes to spend in the US with his best friend, Donald Trump.
Rot the law!
But he, while having millions of pounds in property, he wants to paint a picture that refugees are to blame for the housing crisis, that they're the reason for the ills in our society, that they're the reason we don't have housing or jobs and so on. It's not the fault of migrants and refugees for the problems in our society. It's not migrants and refugees, it's not Muslims, it's not disabled people, it's not the most vulnerable in our society. In fact, it's those at the top of our society. It's the millionaires, it's the bosses, and it's the bankers. And the far right offers absolutely nothing for ordinary people except for racism, except for distraction, for scapegoating and division. And of course, it's not just Nigel Farage. Look at what this government is doing. Slashing benefits, imposing cuts, sending the lives of thousands of ordinary people into peril. And cuts and austerity will always disproportionately affect black people in this country. Time and time again, people who are already ground down by racism having to face the brunt of crisis.
Shame!
And we know that cuts and austerity mean more deaths, and it means more despair, and it means despair that the far right wants to feed off of. And look at what Starmer's doing. He's pushing a toxic mix of cuts and racism, and this is feeding straight into the far right's hand. I mean, look at what Labour is doing. This government, meant to be a Labour government, bragging about deportations, bragging about being the government that's deported the most refugees, cozying up to fascists in Europe like Giorgia Meloni, cozying up to Donald Trump, filming deportations. What does this do for the rise of racism in our society, the normalisation of attacks on refugees? So I think we have to have a message for Starmer that you do not stop the far right by parroting their politics. And I think we're in an incredibly dangerous time. Because the forces of division are on the rise. Reform UK is on the rise. They're surging in the polls. They're trying to have another breakthrough at the local elections. Now we're trying to build a mass movement to stop them, but we need a movement that can stand united and against division. Because Starmer is also pushing a divisive narrative that refugees are to blame, that disabled people are to blame. This is division. And now more than ever, we need a united movement that can stop the far right, that can challenge what this government is doing, and can build hope in a time that is so needed.
Thank you so much for that, Samira. And now to welcome Julia Modern from Inclusion London. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much for coming, everyone. I'm from Inclusion London. We're a deaf and disabled people's organisation serving disabled people in London. So I'm going to emphasise one thing which has already been said, but I think we really need to keep this in mind. And this is that overall, the social security bill is not rising. So when the government are saying that they have to cut because spending is unsustainable, they are lying. The government is also massively overstating the increasing claims for disabled people who are out of work. There has been an increase. We know why that is. We're in a post-pandemic period. We have huge NHS waiting lists. Only 3% of homes in London are being built now are being built to accessible standards. There are huge barriers to disabled people being in work. But the measures that the government has announced absolutely don't address this. They will make disabled people who are already twice as likely to be living in poverty in this country more poor, and they will make it more difficult for us to get into work and to stay in work. This is austerity. This is exactly the same and actually even worse to the coalition years. When they keep saying this is not a return to austerity, just go and ask disabled people. We know this is what it is. It's identical. And they're also practicing divide and rule politics. We need to stick together. All of the groups that are being attacked by this government, this Labour government, which should know better, have to stick together. And as the last speaker said, Labour seems to think that moving to the right is how they beat reform. We need to tell them, we need to show them that they are wrong. We need to show them that they are losing our votes, that they're losing the votes of disabled people because they have betrayed us, and that actually this is going to threaten their jobs. We need you to be going out and talking to your MP, we need you to be on the streets, and we need to be putting forward alternatives. What they can really do to help the disabled people who are out of work but who could work and want to be at work is to build accessible homes, is to invest in social care, and it's to enforce the legal responsibilities that employers have to make jobs accessible, to put in place reasonable adjustments. I was in a meeting in Parliament yesterday when an HR professional from a big global company was saying, actually the thing that makes us really get serious about putting in place reasonable adjustments is that other countries fine us when we don't. The UK doesn't do that. And this is someone from a big company, from an HR department, saying, actually, this is what moves companies. But apparently, in the UK, for our government, this approach is unthinkable. And it shouldn't be. We should be thinking about new solutions. We can't just go all the time to the things that we know don't work, to cutting benefits and providing advice for disabled people on how to write CVs. That is not going to cut it. We need real action, we need investment, and we need to call out the government when they are making arguments that don't add up and that victimise us and drive hate crime.
Thank you very much, Julia, for that. And now we're going to be having Deepak's own Mary Ellen Archer. Sorry?
Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, bobblehead, I call it.
Rachel
Yeah, bobblehead.
Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
She's
Rachel from accounts.
The complaints manager.
They should treat us like they do anybody else.
Yeah.
They should pay, charge the rich, not the poor.
Oh, well, definitely, definitely.
That's our character. A lot of text messages from my bank, and I'm going over my overdraft.
Hello everyone, my name is Mary Ellen. I'm part of Deepak, and yesterday evening I was asked to speak to you. I was like, oh my god, what do I speak about? And everyone here is going to speak to you about so much, tell you all the facts, tell you all the figures. So I decided I would tell you about something else. I would tell you about how these attacks on disabled people are part of a much, 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 much bigger issue. As John McArdle said, we're heading for catastrophe. We're heading for something that Extinction Rebellion has been calling out and saying we're heading for extinction. And the attacks on disabled people are where they started, where the Nazis started, where Deepak's black triangle at the heart of their logo comes from. It's how these things start by kicking at and kicking down at and killing those that society already looks down upon, marginalizes, considers burdens in one way or another. The rhetoric of this government has deliberately othered disabled people, so that when we have been dying in our hundreds and thousands, literally hundreds and thousands. Last year, UCL produced a report, and in that report they found over 1 million people had died in this country as a result of cuts and austerity.
Shame.
Cuts and austerity that were not just carried out by the Tories, but supported by Labour MPs who are now in power and doing worse. This is part of a bigger picture, and we need to know that they depend on Divide to be able to do this. Disabled people around the world, but people all over the world who are not yet disabled, who are going to be disabled because of their pollution, because of their air pollution, because of their water pollution, because of their flooding, because of their fires, because of what they are doing. And what's it for? All for the sake of money. Money is the problem. And they're stealing our money, saying that it's needed because they have to balance the books. They can't afford this. They can afford warfare. They can afford to send bombs to kill our family in Palestine. We are not separate from nature. We are not separate from Palestine. We are not separate from each other. We are one. Disabled and not disabled. Disabled and not yet disabled. We look at the refugee crisis. They say we don't have space to let these people in. Where are we going to go when it comes to us, when it comes to our turn? They're allowing developers to build on floodplains. They know that those people will get flooded, will not be able to claim any insurance. The housing situation, they are deliberately making that housing situation. The housing crisis, the NHS crisis, the disability crisis, they're all interconnected We are not separate. In the news, they keep talking about disability cuts, welfare cuts, and then making it out that we have a worklessness crisis. We don't have a worklessness crisis. We have a crisis that's about inhumanity, that equates worklessness with worthlessness. They're bringing in their assisted suicide bill, and they talk about how being a burden will be sufficient cause to allow and enable the state to offer us assisted suicide. We are not burdens. We are humans. Can I hear you all say that? We are not burdens. We are humans. It is time to remember and remind ourselves that this is not just about disabled people. This is about all people, and not just about all people, but about all beings. Our entire planet is at risk, and they know it, and they don't care. There's a Wall Street Journal book out there. If you look it up, you'll find it, about how to make money out of catastrophe.
Disaster capitalism.
Exactly. Exactly. Every time we've had any kind of disaster, including Brexit, guess what happened? There was money transfer. Money transferred from us to the few. This is about the money. Let's not ever let them forget that, and let's not ever forget that ourselves. And unite the world together and get everyone with. We don't want our allies. We are their allies. When our non-disabled people think that they are being our allies, no. We are fighting this for you. For your planet, for your rights, for your welfare system, for your NHS. Stand with us because we stand for you. Let's never forget that. Thank you. And don't forget, join DPAC. Add your donations, add your support, come out on every single one of these actions. If you can't come out, join us online. Do what you can. Every voice, every action is needed.
Thank you very much, Mary Ellen. And now to go to Andy Bain from the People's Assembly. Thanks very much, Andy.
Okay, thanks. My name's Andy Bain. I'm on the steering committee of the People's Assembly as a representative from the daily socialist newspaper, The Morning Star. The People's Assembly was formed soon after the financial crisis of 2008-2009 in response to government austerity, and DPAC was one of its many founding organisations. So we're pleased to bring solidarity to DPAC and the others organising this protest. Austerity returns with Rachel Reeves, and we've heard many examples of what's happened already and what's coming. And we've got to build the resistance from now, and part of that will be a demonstration on the 6th of June, which I'll mention in a minute. So the losers are the poorer end of society, and we have a Labour government that's committed to sheltering the rich. It seems that the range of cuts to social security are about creating the situation where people will be forced to work for even less. So the already rich will benefit more from lower wage costs. The Labour government should be offering hope, as Corbyn did, and not the despair we're facing now. We should be taxing the rich and investing in our public services, schools, hospitals, local services and housing. Huge increases in the arms budget at the same time as social security cuts is a disaster for working class communities. And we say welfare, not warfare. The trade unions will be aware that beyond the moral arguments against producing arms for war, there will be many more jobs lost in education, health and public services than might be created if the weapons industry is to be subsidised even more. We must win the argument welfare not warfare in the trade unions. For over a year now, the eyes of many campaigners for justice and a better society have been focused on the injustice of genocide. And this will continue. And we must also make the movement grow here against similar, or let's say different injustices here. People are getting angry, and this is certain to grow. And though there are not yet tens of thousands on this demonstration, this will come. So the trade unions and the People's Assembly and the people at this demonstration today, along with other anti-austerity campaigners, have to take the lead against this new austerity government. Join the People's Assembly. There are local groups across the country. Just coming to a finish now. In lieu of a political leadership, we must build a movement from below to take on the government, with growing numbers of campaigns and protesters. The many disaffected Labour Party members who have left or are still in the Labour Party are welcome to join our growing political challenge to austerity and to build a better society where nobody is poor. So finally, put Saturday the 7th of June in your diary. That's when we'll be hitting the streets here in London to say no more austerity 2, stop the cuts, welfare not warfare, and no to the far right. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Andy. And now, to come and give us a few words of solidarity, the Labour MP for Alloa and Grangemouth, Brian Leishman.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. I wish it was in happier circumstances I was out here speaking with you. I've just left the chamber and I'm appalled. I'm appalled at many things, but we should be, as a political party, we should be looking after the most vulnerable and disadvantaged people in our society. The measurement of any government is how do we look after people that are disadvantaged, and we are failing. This is, make no mistake about it, this is austerity. And people the length and breadth, from my constituency in central Scotland to all over the UK, are sick and they are tired of the endless race to the bottom that austerity has suffered on communities. We must do better. There is no doubt about it that these cuts are going to impact dreadfully. You have my solidarity, and when it comes to a vote, and I am sure, and there is, I can tell you in that building there are MPs of many different political parties that are against these cuts.
Why don't you
When
give
it
them
comes
a
to
vote of confidence? You get them
I
out.
will be voting against these horrendous cuts. You have my solidarity today, and you have it going forward.
Can you not vote to get them out?
Thank you very, very much, Brian.
Fucking Labour.
We mentioned it for those of you who were there outside Downing Street. But one amazing activist couldn't be with us here in person today, and that's Paula Peters from Disabled People Against Cuts. So many of you here will know her. She's a real stalwart of our movement. And so we have a statement from Paula to read today. And that's going to be read by Sophia. Thank you.
So this is Paula's statement. I'm gutted I can't be with you today. Let me hear you make some noise. To Starmer the Harmer, Liz Killer-Kendall and Rachel Robber-Rees, the proposed disability cuts are indefensible and wrong. Let's be clear, they are in breach of the Equality Act and the Human Rights Act. Disabled people will be harmed by these cuts. The evil government better believe this. Today you witnessed the biggest fight back of disabled people across the UK in recent years. That we have the balls to take you on and fight back. This is now Labour government's disability benefits poll tax. Let's continue to build the resistance going forwards. I say to the government, balls to your welfare reforms, balls to the spring statement. I will end as I always do. A thank you. A thank you to the Met Police. You've been an annoying audience. See you all soon. Solidarity, Paula Peters.
Okay, and now to introduce Mark Dunk. Yeah, that's fine.
AJ, I'm going to have a word with him and say, well, why can't they vote him out? they've got the power to do it. So that worried.
Hi, so some of you have seen me running around today with my DPAC hat on, but I am also the disability officer from Finsbury Park RMT, and I'm proud to bring solidarity from my branch to everyone here standing up against the injustice of these cuts today.
Back in a minute, AJ.
So Labour's decided to unleash another wave of attacks on disabled people at the same time as ramping up spending on the weapons of war. They tell us it's about getting disabled people back to work. It's lies. It's lies. We cannot pick whether they can work or not. These people are a disgrace.
Are you the MP?
Yeah, I work for Brian.
Oh, I need to speak to him.
Oh, yeah.
If he's that worried, why can't they vote Keir Starmer out? There's enough for them to vote him out. Vote with no confidence.
There's not enough for Brian.
Huh?
There's not enough. Not everyone is the same as
Right.
Brian. Brian would very happy
What would
to vote
happen?
for a different leader.
I had a word with a Labour MP off camera. Right. He's all for it. I said to him, what about getting a vote of no confidence to get him out? Apparently there's not enough MPs to get him out. There's not enough for a vote of confidence to get him out. They need at least, he reckons it could be, they need about 400 MPs to get him out. There's not enough. So we're stuck with him.
What about the petition that went in?
He's probably threw that in the bin.
Yeah.
And he's lucky. The two guys that were with him, gonna get me on film. The two guys that were with him turned and says, voting for him would be a big mistake because they're all for the benefit cuts. Also, he says the best person to vote for would be Greens or Liberal Dems because they've got more MPs. But apparently, Reform is all for the benefit cuts and that. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
If you stuck around, thank you.
Why then you staying or are you going?
I was hoping to catch him to have a quick chat, but what about the others? Were they MPs?
No. Staying with his bodyguards. Or his staff. He's off leaving. He's away to go to fucking Polish. I think they're his lackeys.
Yeah.
That's the MP there. I says, will you lose your whip? He says, probably. But he's not caring. He says, what's right's right.
Yep.
He says he's got was it 70,000 bosses, right?
Yeah.
That want what's right. And the 70,000 bosses of his constituents. So, at least he's sticking up for his constituents.
That's something.
Yeah. But I did say, what would happen if the protest was outside Starmer's house? They went, what, down and see? I went, no, he's out, his residence where he lives. Not a very good idea. I said, why? People live there, I said, yeah, people live around here.
Yeah.
So, I think he's making a big mistake. Look, there he goes.
Yeah, that was that Labour MP just going.
Yeah, he's over there.
Over there at the moment.
With the baldy head and the suit on.
Yeah.
That's probably his secretary.
Yeah, with his staff.
Yeah, with his staff, yeah.
I'm thinking about calling it myself.
Yeah, I'm thinking of calling it a day, man. I've been here too long. Some of the stuff's getting a bit nothing to do with. Some of it's to do with far right and all that about reform and that. I mean,
yeah.
All right, I'll catch you. I'll catch you on the next one, guys, and please like and subscribe. This is to do with benefit cuts, not just disabled for now. Well, it's disabled for now, but eventually it'll be everybody. Right, so get behind us, guys, please. Catch you on the next one.